you all a year later. I'm here on behalf of our chairman, Håkan, who unfortunately, can't be here with us. He apologized for this, but he had some little and very personal, some problems, and he can't be here with us, but we are in contact with him. So we go on, we start this General Assembly. First of all, I would like to thank very warmly our hosts, the Slovensky Film Director Guild, and the IPA, the CMO from Slovenia. As we are saying now, it begins very, very well. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Then I will leave the floor right now to the JOŽKO RUTAR, the director of Slovenian Film Center, and then we can start with having the focus on Slovenian film production. Thanks a lot, and we start very well.
First of all, I would like to say Dobar dan, which means good day in Slovenian. I would like to say dobrodošli, which means welcome. And I would like to say hvala, which means thank you, as a short course of Slovenian, to coming here in Ljubljana to have your annual assembly here of FERA, the Film Directors Association of Europe. My name is JOŽKO RUTAR. I run the Slovenian Film Center. My previous background is that I finished economy, then I was a producer of cultural things. I worked in a theater, then I became a film producer, and then from that position as a film producer in one certain period of weakness, I decided to apply to be a state bureaucrat, and I'm still a state bureaucrat now for 4 years running the institution, which I would like to present now, and of course to present all the Slovenian audiovisual landscape which is connected to our institution. So, as I mentioned previously, Slovenian Film Center is a public agency which was established in 2011 as a successor of Slovenian Film Fund, which was first such institution in Eastern Europe. We are a quite small team. We have 6 or 7 employees, plus some contract co-workers, and when we were established, and even when our fund was established, we have so-called family silver, which is that in socialistic times, each republic of ex-Yugoslavia has his own state-owned production company, and Slovenian state-owned production company went to bankrupt when we entered democracy, but politics wisely decided that they will transfer all the production rights for these films to our body. So we actually have our library, which contains more than 800 titles and more than 120 feature films, including all the classical movies of Slovenia from the period of socialism, which we exploitate, take care for them, try also with limited sources to digitalize them, and also to sell them to the broadcasters, for example, because there's always interest for these titles, which are classical titles of our national cinematography. Our goal is to encourage creativity in the film and audiovisual field in the Republic of Slovenia by creating suitable conditions for film, audiovisual, and cinematographic activities. It sounds perfect. Sometimes it's not so perfect, but when you are like, let's say, independent institution established by government, but on the other side you are not a government, and we don't treat ourselves much as a government, but we try to be very close to our industry, to the guys who create and so on. So, of course, and because of the money issues, we are always in a slight conflict with the government, because sometimes politicians also don't like the stuff we support, you know, which are sometimes, let's say, some provocative stuff, but we think that that's our mission, and that the mission of filmmakers, of course, must be to be critic, to be provocative in some sense, to show the mirror to the society we are working in. Here are our tasks. So our tasks are national program in the field of culture, and especially in the field of area of film and audiovisual activities, quality growth of industry, encouraging creativity in production. We need to select the projects, which is, of course, our main objective, and we run constantly some public tenders to select the projects, to cooperate with national TV and radio broadcaster, to monitor and supervise the projects, to organize the festival, an annual festival where we present all the films and audiovisual works created in the last year. Festival usually runs each September in Portorož, which is a coastal town on Slovenian coast. So to somehow network the organizations of professionals, to encourage the development of the industry, to support also the training and the education, to develop technology and infrastructure, which means that we were very active in recent years in digitization of art house cinema in the country, to cooperate with the state bodies and civil society, of course, to promote and exploit our audiovisual work domestically and also internationally, to cooperate with brother and sister institutions from Europe, which means that we represent Slovenia in Euroimage. We are members of EFAD, which is Association of European Film agencies, directors, and so on, and to cooperate and to taking care with the other institutions. This is on short. So what do we finance? I think our goal of financing, or focus of financing, is very classical. So we finance development, either scripts or project development. We finance realization of films of all lengths, of all genres, all styles, which means that these are feature films, docs, animation films, experimental films. We have a special scheme which is dedicated to the first-time directors. So we usually we finance from 1 to 3 titles annually for the debutant movies, feature-length movies. We also finance minority co-productions. We finance student films. We have a special scheme where we finance each year annual production of 2 academies, 1 academy and 1 faculty of arts, which are active in the field of film. So we finance their annual production, so the students have the possibility to practice the knowledge they learn in school. And we have a special scheme where we finance audiovisual works which are specially made not directly for cinema but for broadcasting. In this scheme we usually support mainly docs of middle length, some animated films and so on. And of course we automatically finance promotion and distribution of all financed films. So when the film is finished, we also give to the film money for international and domestic promotion and distribution. What else we finance? We finance also film festivals. We finance activities of professional associations. In last year, we actively finance also film education and audience building programs. For example, last year I think we financed about 25 different projects which are distributed in Slovenia and are different from workshops to audience building programs and so on. And as I mentioned, we've also financed digitization of art house cinemas. So we in totally we finance it like 20 cinemas which are independent and they are mainly placed in small cities around Slovenia, and where their focus is not, it's more artistic and European film and not so much Hollywood blockbusters. With this thing we enable these cinemas to survive in this digital era because they don't have big admission, but the next step we try to work on it is to develop some common programs and to serve them with these programs, also to help them to program themselves and their for example, I will tell you that the visit in our multiplexes, and last year we were winners because Slovenia fell of 15% in cinema admission, which come on 20% from previous years. So in last 2 years we lost like 35% of cinema market. But on the other hand, we raised the admission in art house cinema for 50%. So the two networks of multiplexes work very well, very bad in recent 2 years, and the cinema network is growing and getting on the importance. Our annual budget in this year we have about 4.6 million euros, which is a big fall from 2011 where we have at least on paper 8 million. But then austerity came and some governments came, and I must say that honestly that, for example, one anecdote, before I came to the institution in 5 years in the period of 2006 to 2011, this institution changed 10 directors, which was approximately each half a year we have each one a new director. Now I'm here for 4 years, but in this period I changed 5 ministers of culture. So we changed the trend. Before they were changing our politicians, our directors. Now the ministers are changing, and it's very hard, of course, in this situation to work because whenever you establish a good relation or a bad relation with the minister, the government fell, and you need to start again and again. Out of this 3.8 million approximately, of course, we distribute to the program. So we transfer this money to the producers, to the organizers, to the associations and so on. And about 800,000 we spent for our salaries, for our national festival, for the promotion activities internationally and nationally, of course. And 95% of this money came from the state budget, and 5% come from our own earnings. Wait, where I am? Oh, I just jumped, you know. maybe before, when I was explaining we finance, I need to explain you how do we finance. We run only selective schemes, which means that all the selection of the projects is based on the quality of the script, the references of the authors, the references of the producer, the quality of financial and plan, and so on and so on. And we don't run automatic funding, so we don't have any automatic scheme. From 2011 on, this is a pure soft money, which means that it's treated as a subsidy. We do not recoup neither a euro. So whatever film earns in domestic cinemas on sales abroad goes to the producers, because before that, as a film fund, we have a recoupment scheme. But when we were preparing that new law, we find out that the Slovenia, as a small market, which is 2 million people, you can never recoup the money you invest into the movie. And the producers, of course, as the owner of rights, were not very interesting to pay back, let's say, 80%, which was average investment of film fund. So they were not interested in. So in this case, we decided, okay, we will let you all the earnings of the film if you make successful film, and of course, let's say local blockbuster, you will earn something. If you are dedicated to the pure art house, you will make a movie, but you will not make money. But with this sum, they at least they can develop new projects or invest into the company, because we know that the producers will not put this in their pocket directly, because sometimes they go over the budget and so on. So we think, and the result which we found out was that 2 years ago, where we have a very strong year, we have a, let's say, a record year of the national share in cinemas. So it was about 15%. Previous shares were about 5%. So also the producers were more interested, and they put big effort to promote the movies, and the cinema results were very good. We have one unique situation which is not common in other Europe. So our state owns our own film studio, which is, let's say, not perfectly but fully equipped film studio with 2 sound stages, post-production facilities for editing, for sound editing, for sound mixing, and of course rentals of cameras, lenses, grip, light, so everything, including, let's say, costumes and props and so on. And when Slovenian Film Center enters into the project, the producers have the right to use the services or the technique and the facilities of this film studio for free.
Against the budget?
It must be in a budget. In the budget, it's put it on some evaluated value. Of course, it's treated as a state aid also, but they get it for free. They just need to pay for insurance of the equipment for the period, and operational costs, of course. If they are in studio, they need to pay electricity, water, cleaning, etc. But facility is for free. And I think this is very unique situation. I don't know any case in Europe where this functions in this way. There's some statistics for 2014. We supported 6 features, 4 short film, 5 feature-length docs, 5 short animated, 3 co-productions, 1 first feature film, 15 audiovisual works for broadcasters, and 25 projects of education and audience building. Of course, we supported also 15 student films and so on and so on. Some script development, project development. Our organizational structure is we have a director, which is me, and we have a board of 8 members. The uniqueness and maybe a big result of the law from 2011 was that we insisted after this, you know, this constant changes, the industry insisted, and we succeeded with the politicians. So in our board, actually, out of 8 members, there are 7 members from the industry, and there is only 1 representative of Ministry of Culture, which is, let's say, political representative. So it's much easier to work because in the board they have there are 2 representatives of authors, 2 representatives of producers, 1 representative of academic sphere, which is actually Academy for Film, 1 from Film Studio, 1 from National Broadcaster, and of course 1 from Ministry of Culture. For example, in the board, which is now actual, from 8 members, I have 4 members which are film directors. So it's a very good atmosphere to work because you speak with the people, they know the business, and you don't need to bullshit. You can speak honestly with them, and they understand this. And of course, we have a program committees. So we don't have commissioners as some countries, but we have a program committees, which are special committees. 1 is for development of the project, the other is for realization, 1 is for the digitization, 1 is for audiovisual works, and 1 is for promotion, distribution, and 1 is for other activities. Each committee has 3 members. They are selected from the film professionals. They must exclude themselves, of course, when they decide about things which they are personally, family, business connected with. Their term is 1 year. They can prolong their term for another year, and slowly, more or less, all the industry comes and has not just right to participate in getting money, but has also the duty to decide to whom to distribute the money. And I think this is very wise, you know. I already spoke about the budget. We are very active international. As I mentioned, we are members of Euroimage, of EFATS, of European Film Promotion, also some smaller activities. We run Slovenian Film Commission, which is established to promote Slovenia as a shooting location. I left some brochures there on the table. We published, and recently we established a REACT, which is Regional Education Cooperation Training Project, together with the colleagues from Croatia, with Hrvoje, and with our colleagues from Friuli Venezia Giulia, because we found out that we have a very common region with the same stories. So we established like a workshop or education development program and co-development fund. So we will try to develop projects which are connected regionally. Our focus in the co-productions is mainly on the countries, of course, of ex-Yugoslavia, where we share a common history, but we are also oriented toward our neighboring countries, Italy mainly, but also to some countries further, like we have co-productions with Germany, with France, with Ireland, with Sweden, Finland, and so on. And I think that with Czech Republic recently very much, because we are very much connected, because a lot of our directors also studied in Prague and so on, and so on. We are present on all main film markets, which means Marché in Cannes, European Film Market in Berlin. Together with Croatia, we share a stand in Clermont-Ferrand last year, so we start to actively promote also to our shorts, and in last years we are very active also in Leipzig on documentary festival. And of course we, as a national institution, we are present on all main festivals, and which are important, of course. Big Free, we are very strongly present in Venice, where we have 3 or 4 films in the last 3 years in programs, either majority or minority co-productions, but also the regional festivals like Sarajevo, which is very important, and even Wiser. About other sources of financing in Slovenia, there are not many. As I mentioned before, our own studio. Then, according to our law, our national TV, public broadcaster, has to publish their own annual call according to our law on Slovenian Film Center. So they distribute about 1.67 million each year. Yes.
How much does it mean to their production budget, this 1.7 million, 400,000? Yeah, but how many to their total budget?
Yeah, for example, our production budget for the production, it's less than 3 million, and if you put 1.7 to that, it's like 50%, you know. Sometimes the project combine the budgets, sometimes the project do not combine, but it's another window. In first step, there were some concerns, you know, and it's always like that some people think that everything should be under us. Some people think that it's better that some money on the TV. You know, you have always different things, and sometimes they select something we don't like and so on. So it's another window, which is okay, you know. And the Ministry of Culture is still running 3 different calls. One is that they finance 3 major film festivals separately. They finance the functioning of art house cinemas, and they finance the distribution of European arts films. We proposed them several times to allocate that money to us, and we will do it, but I don't know why they don't want it, but maybe we will change this in the future. Private broadcasters do not invest money. There was obligation in a law, but then they went to the institutional court and they succeeded because they said that the state cannot, the constitutional court says that the state cannot prescribe the private interest to invest into some public interest, and they do not invest. You know, it's pity, but it happens, you know, and we have bad law practice. In some other countries there was not such a case, but in Slovenia it happens as it happens. So we had this in a law, and we don't have it anymore because it was this article was cancelled by constitution law. And we, as we are a very small country, we don't have local communities funding actually. Our main institutional partners are Ministry of Culture, Creative Europe Desk, Slovenia, Slovenian Cinematheque, Slovenian Film Archive, Film Studio, TV Slovenia, and Academy for Film, Radio, Film and TV. From these institutions, I didn't mention Slovenian Cinematheque and Slovenian Film Archive. The Film Archive is taking care for the archive copies of Slovenian films. Cinematheque is taking care for archive copies of the films which were distributed in Slovenia. In some parts they cross-pass their activities and of course also obligations. My personal opinion is that they should be one institution, at least because we are too small to have two, but it's not in my hands, it's in the hand of politics. But we cooperate very good with both of them. And of course, our main industry partners are directors, authors, producers, animators, art house cinemas, and IPA as a collecting society. Maybe some data about producers. I just count recently in last 4 years the projects which were resulted in a film. As a result was a finished film work or audiovisual work, or however we say. We supported 50 different companies in the last 4 years. So, of course, some were small works, some were big works, but it's quite a variety of producers. Of course, some are just specialized in audiovisual, the other are specialized in more in big feature films and so on. Of course, the challenges for the future, there are many, of course. The tax incentive, we are fighting for the tax incentive, which could be cash rebate for domestic and foreign production for years. And it's a pure coincidence that just today our Ministry of Culture put in a public discussion the proposal of a law, which changes our law, and in this proposal it's a cash rebate. It's a cash rebate on 25%, so it's planned to be established in 2016, and it will be under the plan 25%, and it will be established either for the foreign productions coming to shoot in Slovenia, either for Slovene productions who will shoot it, but of course there will be certain restriction with the state aid, so the combination of from the selective scheme and automatic scheme, which this will be on a 50%, of course. But we will try to keep it open to all of them. Of course, they put a small number in it, but our plan is to establish it and then start to convince the Minister of Finance how good we are and how good this thing is, and I'm sure we will, with the results we will show them. We will also get some more money. We tried last year to put a much more ambitious law, including non-budget sources and so on, like commercial broadcaster, cable operators, VOD, DVD, cinema tickets, over-the-top providers, and so on. But the law was written, and then the government fell, and the law went to the drawer. So, in this case, we decided, and of course, it was a big discussion, and it was a big opposition, especially from telecoms and so on, and the internet providers and cable operators, which are much bigger players on the market than the film industry is. And so in this first phase, when we, on the law which our ministry presented today, we decided to go just with the cash rebate, which has no opposition actually. So maybe we will leave this for the second stage. Through our work, we find out, and maybe this is a problem everywhere, that the quality of scripts and the quality of development. So in the future, we will try to work more intensively in this field, and we want also to start to work on drama series, which is a trend, and of course as a final chapter, it's more euros, of course, and that's all from me. Here are the connections where you can find some data about us. There's my email, my Twitter account, and so on, and I'm open to all the questions from the audience. Thank you very much.
The exact data from 2014 is that public broadcaster is joined with radio and television, which has 6 programs in television and 7 programs in radio. Their overall yearly budget is 130 million euros, and out of that, because it's this is the classic type of bad public organization, and it has it has only 11 million euro in program. Everything else is just for the broadcaster to run. Out of 11 million, there is 1.7 million for cinema. That is the answer.
Yeah, the law prescription is that they need to transfer 2% of the incomes which they earn with this, it's not a subscription, it's a levy which each owners of the electricity counter has to pay for the, and it's, I don't know, 13 euro per month per household. So they need to transfer 2% of that sum into the cinematography. So they collect with this like 90 million, and the rest they collect with marketing up to 130 million and other services, of course.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. First is, do you have a déposit légal? That means, do you get all the films that are produced for your archive?
Yeah, we have a prescription in our contract that all the films which are produced and supported by us, they need to deposit the negative before and now the original material to the archive.
You have that in your funding contract?
Yeah.
So if I produced a film here without your help, it would not go to the archive? It's not by law? Because
no, it's not by law, no.
Maybe it's something you might want to lobby for.
Yeah,
it would be helpful, especially now that copies are not so expensive anymore. In the old days, it was a heavy lift, a heavy weight on the shoulder of the producer. And maybe for your future plan, it might be interesting.
Thank you for the tip.
Also for your future plan, I was missing marketing money. Or do you have that already in
No, we don't have money from marketing.
Yeah, because this is what I see everywhere in Europe, which is going up and where there is an awareness. So maybe it would be interesting for you to think about that too.
Yeah,
especially with the numbers going down so significantly.
Yeah, in the previous law I mentioned, it was that the public and private broadcasters need to participate from the marketing earnings, you know.
Yeah, that would be, of course, helpful. And exploitation windows, I wondered if this is a debate here also. Since you're a small country, maybe it would be easier to try something that, a film that is, let's say, a feature doc, when it's on in the cinema, that it might be at the same time released as DVD or VOD. Is that in the debate or not yet?
You know, we are very deregulated in this sense. We are not like big countries where they have windows. So theoretically, nobody prescribes you that you cannot start the film in different windows. So you can go cinema and VOD at the same time if you wish. We don't put any regulation on that.
You don't have that in your funding contract, because in Germany, for example, it's even in the funding contract. So if you sign that you are funded, you may not release the film after 24 months for television, for example. That is not clear.
It's like unwritten rule which all the televisions in Slovenia follow. It's that the release time on the public or private broadcaster is 1 year after the cinema release. And actually the DVD market, it's dead. But you know, Slovenia is one characteristic of Slovenia is also that it has very good penetration with fast internet.
And do you have a VOD offer for your 800 films from the
Not
socialist
all,
time?
because we don't have all the titles digitalized, you know. That's the problem. And especially, you know, when they reduced our funds for 50%, we were in a big dilemma where to invest. Either to invest into a heritage, big money, or to keep the industry alive. And we decided to keep the industry alive and the professionals which are working. So majority of the money we distribute to the new production and not so much to the heritage. Because we have so small budget. I don't, you know, if I speak with the archive guys, they said you are crazy, you know. But on the other hand, when you look on the directors which have to live, they have families, you know. It was my personal and my staff decision to put the money with such a limited sources, to put the money into the production. But we reduced the production budgets very much, you know, in recent years.
You will have probably noticed that the prices for digitizing things are dropping like crazy right now with new digital scanners on the market that are very little by price. So maybe you want to change that at some time.
We are doing
soon.
We are doing, but on a very small scale, not on a huge scale. And we have, of course, we applied now on some structural funds, and we will try to raise the money from the structural funds, especially for this field, you know.
So maybe Viva Film would be a good place for that. But at the same time, and that's then my last question, thank you for your patience. Viva Film, you said there is no other example for that. Actually, in Germany, in northern Germany, we have a similar model. But that leads me also to the question, is that the pure existence of the state-owned studio not hindering others to come up with commercial offers? Isn't that a dangerous thing to do?
They are open also to commercial projects.
Oh, that I understand, but it's highly subsidized and it's really deterring the market.
It's not highly subsidized. The state just paid half of their operational costs and half of their salaries. The rest they need to earn on the market. They're a very small team. The investment of a state budget in Viva Studio, it's about $500,000. And it's the house, which is here in Ljubljana, it's 10 years old. So it's quite new infrastructure. So, of course, there are some private providers or rentals which constantly fight against. But Viva has fixed prices, and they cannot offer such a discounts as a private rentals if you come with the money can offer you. So they are not they are really take care to not be to not ruin the competition. And maybe just that's my personal opinion, of course, as we have very much we have a huge amount of the productions running. You know, it's they don't have a place to act on the market, but they're and our national productions, of course, because they are very low financed, they do not shoot much in a sound stage. They shoot on real locations, more or less. So the sound stage which they have, it's more or less they're shooting commercials on the sound stage, and they have the only proper sound stage in the state. You know?
No, my question was not really meant to criticize it. I just wanted to know if you have the same thing. I wanted to let you know, and I gladly hook you up if you need some arguments with our, it's called Filmwerkstatt Kiel. And it's quite an interesting way also to help young people to make their first film and have education and have technology at hand. And I think also similar things exist in the Nordic countries. So if you ever need sort of arguments helping you, keep that in the back of your head.
And also I think that the Hungarian fund included a state-owned studio in their facilities just recently again, I think, but I'm not sure exactly.
In terms of the tax break and your sort of negotiations with that, you know, where do you expect that to end up? What kind of timescale are you working to? What's the outlook?
Our plan is that the rebate will start on January 1st, 2016. So to adopt the law in autumn and then to promote it and to start the rebate in 2016.
Here we also
It's
come from you,
25% of the costs without VAT, of course. Yes, please. Can you speak in the mic, please? It's for you. It's okay. Maybe for the audience, it's okay.
Do you have films which are very important for Slovenians? When Slovenian people see them, they say, yes, it is about us.
Yeah.
It's the first question. The second question is, when you start your national history of cinema, now or you had your special films inside former Yugoslavia?
Of course, you know, the first film in Slovenia was shot on 1905 in Ljutomer. It was one advocate, Karol Grossman, which was 10 years after Brothers Lumière. And that person also, during the First World War, his guest was Fritz Lang, for example. So the history of Slovenian film, it's 110 years old. The first feature film, which was not sound, was from 1930s. And the first feature film with sound was shot in 1948. And it was titled On Our Land. And it was presented in the second edition of competition in festival in Cannes. So, and that's it, shortly. Maybe historically.
And now the important films.
Of course, we have important films, you know, but you know, our mission is to support the variety. We don't have much money, but we try to program so that each year we program variety of films. So from comedy to drama to pure art house, you know, something which could be presented on a festival. On the other hand, some film which could be a local blockbuster, because it's very hard to find the common language that the film is a blockbuster in a country and on the other side is a festival movie. So we try, in these 6 or 8 features which we select, we try to mix and combine the best we have on a table and to offer to the taxpayers, if I can say this, the variety so that each one can find something for him, including important historical, social, etc. themes, but on the other hand also to offer some more light films, comedies, and so on. Variety is the principle, and of course the quality of project. If there are no further questions, I would like to thank you for the time of listening to me, and if you have some personal question, I will be around, so just grab me, please. Thank you very much.